hi. Sorry, I got caught up in the jams. How's everyone doing? Welcome to Spooky Week. Not really, I just wanted to call it that because it sounded fun. So, yeah, hi. Yo, whoa, I hear. How's it going, y'all? How we doing? Are we enjoying the music? Is it loud for you? Because it's loud for me. Very loud in my ears, but that's okay. Yeah. So we've got... Okay. You could have said that when I was on my starting soon screen. Uber. Is that better? Okay, so the closed captionings are not perfect. We do the best we can with what we've got. They are kind of just speech detected. So... Okay. How about that? Is that better? I'm also gonna, maybe make the captions just a little bit smaller. There we go. There we go. Now they kind of fit on me. Okay. So, anyway. So we are... As everyone knows, because I've talked about it a little bit, we're fundraising. We do be fundraising. We fundraising for Dysautonomia International, in order to advocate and research, well, not advocate, educate and research for dysautonomia. Dun, 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 dun. I've got this pretty cute little overlay. Isn't it so nice? Wow, the closed captions are so incorrect. It's kind of funny. But you know what? It's better than not having them, I think. Anyway, so there are, I think, periodically throughout the chat, the Tiltify page will come up. As well as, obviously, there's a QR code on screen that will take you to the Tiltify page. And then we have... Hi, Lizzie! What's up, dude? Well, you know what? I do like the captions, but I'm just watching how incorrect they are, and I'm wondering if it's worth it. Anyway, so I was just telling chat, Lizzie, that we are fundraising for Dysautonomia International, and also my cat is being a menace because she always is the second I start streaming. Anyway, periodically that there will be the Tiltify page in chat, as well as mods and myself can use the Tiltify command, which is just exclamation point Tiltify, and there is a there's the QR code on screen. Dysautonomia, for those who are not aware, is what I have, which I am not quiet about. And I have a lovely form called POTS. And what is POTS, you may ask? That's a fantastic question. POTS is postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, which is just a really fancy way of saying that if I am upright, my heart loses its mind, and then I faint. So, but it is critically under-researched, and not, like, doctors are not educated about dysautonomia. I have technically had this for, we suspect, probably over 10 years, but when it wasn't bad, the doctors just passed it all off as other stuff. They're like, oh, you know, it's normal to get a head rush when you stand up, or... You know, it's weight issues or anxiety or, you know, all those usual things that we are often told when you have something wrong with you. And then about 3 years ago, I almost fainted at work. And that kind of started this whole journey of trying to figure out what's wrong with me. I love modern medicine, right? Yeah. Anyway, I started this whole journey of trying to figure out what the heck is wrong with me. And I have been run around for like nearly 3 years. I've been run around in circles. I've had doctors saying like, oh, well, we'll send you to a specialist if it gets worse. And then to them, it's not getting worse because the medication is helping with my heart rate and my blood pressure, but it's not helping all the other symptoms that are debilitating in my life. But that's not their problem. For that, you have to go to XYZ doctor, and it's a whole thing. So I had one doctor straight up tell me that it was just because of my weight, even though I was 100 pounds soaking wet when all of these issues started. So, you know, it is what it is. Anyway, I've been recently diagnosed with the thing that I have been telling them that I have had for 3 years. And dysautonomia is just... dysautonomia in and of itself is just an umbrella term for the collection of various illnesses. And it is a... I forgot all of the words that I needed to say. Good lord, guys, I promise I was prepared. And then I forgot what I wanted to say. Okay, sorry. Okay, dysautonomia is a dysfunction of the nerves that regulate non-voluntary body functions, such as heart rate, blood pressure, and sweating, along with, you know, a bunch of other stuff. So, also my cat is eating paper, I think, question mark, a bag. I don't know. My cat's just being a cat, I guess. So, anyway, that's dysautonomia. I do have... I'll try to do a stream this week with some buddies, some friends, if you guys are interested. If you guys are interested in just hearing me talk. Hi, Hazy! How's it going? If you guys are interested in just hearing me talk with my friends, then I will do a stream later this week where I will go a lot more in depth about dysautonomia. Because I feel like it would be a lot easier to have friends there to kind of be able to read out, you know, the different things that I have prepared. I asked in a POTS group of mine what they want the general public to know about dysautonomia and this illness. I have facts from Dysautonomia International themselves about dysautonomia, how it affects us, all that stuff. But I think that it'll be fun to do that with friends, because then they can also I don't know how to spell. I want to also try to catch this Pokemon, but I'm trying to talk. Anyway. Is it cheating to catch a Pokemon in my own chat? I don't know. Anyway. I think it'd be fun to do that with friends, because then they can also ask questions if they have anything they want to know about, whether it, like, specifically regarding me and my illness, or just like an overarching whatever. Full disclosure that anything that I say in regards to dysautonomia is going to be my own personal experience with it. This is not going to be everybody. I feel that's probably, you guys are smart enough to know that, but I do have to disclosure. Be nosy, but you will. I'll let you be nosy. Just let me know when you're available this week, Hazy. It's like you and Celeste. But I know Celeste is pretty busy, so I'll see. Also, I'm gonna take a picture of how my cat is currently sleeping in regards to my setup. And I will post it later. And also the dog in his streamer chair. I'm sorry, Lizzie. Oh no. Oh no, Lizzie. Thursday? Sure, I can do Thursday. It's totally fine with me. I'll ask Celeste. I'm so sorry, Lizzie. I will just really quickly, if anyone does have any questions, you are free to ask before we start the gameplay. I am also going to disclosure say that technically this game was given to me as early access by 2.5 Studios. However, I did not see my email in time. I'm so sorry, 2.5 Studios, if you are watching this. I will check my email more often, I promise. I did not see it in time, but the demo is now out for everybody. So that was my bad. I forget about my VTuber email way too much because I have like 10 different email accounts. Don't ask why. Just got way too many emails, man. So anyway, I have the cat sleeping like next to / behind my computer, and then the dog on his streamer chair next to me. I got my streamer buddies. Oh, hi. Oh, I mentioned you and now you want to climb on the table. Thank you. I don't want you on the table, Yogurt. Someday I'll be able to have a pup cam or a cat cam. He has a specific streaming chair. It is just for him. And I had it in my sister's room because it was taking up too much room in our living room. And so I brought it out and the dog was so excited. He knew exactly what it meant. He was stoked. He's normally afraid when I carry large things because he is quite small. But he knew what the chair was. And so I thought that was kind of funny. But anyway. Aside from all of that, friends, how are y'all doing? How are you doing, besties? Do we like having closed captions on the stream? How do we feel? I think aside from the closed captionings not always being accurate, that it's pretty nice to have. I think they're good. Thanks, Drave. I appreciate you. The dog is now. I like that you're Steve now, according to the captions. Steve. That's so funny. But anyway. Okay, with all of that out of the way, we can play Cage of Roses, which is not developed by 2.5 Studios. It is simply published by 2.5 Studios, but it is a date sim, and it is lesbians, and it's vampires, and that's all anyone needs to know. Because that's all I know, really. So... I think they're pretty cool because sometimes I can't hear, so I read. And that's exactly what we're going for. Good for anyone who's hard of hearing, deaf, or has auditory processing issues. I don't know if the microphone picks up the weird noises that the dog is making, but if it does, I'm sorry. He's very angry that I'm not paying attention to him. Very mad. Anyway, on to Cage of Roses. Although, let's go lesbians. Exactly. I do keep wanting it to call it, like, Court of Roses, which I know is not correct. That is an entirely different thing. But that is, in fact, what my brain keeps calling it. So, Perplunk. The sad part is that I will now have to turn off
H2O
my spooky music.
You better hide.
Sorry, I started choking on the air. Did you guys hear this the clip? Did I mean, thank you for the water I will drink. There's the water sound effects for you. Hydrate, not dehydrate. Can't take my joke. Can't take my joke. But yeah, were you guys able to hear the redeem? Because I did not. But if you guys hear it, then it's fine. I guess I don't need to hear my silly, funny sound alert. I don't... Okay. I have no idea why I can't hear them. I have no idea how to fix that. So, we're just rolling with it, I guess. Okay, anyway. How's the music volume on the game? Do I need to turn it up? Thanks, straight. Oh, the dog just wiped himself out trying to climb on my feet. Sounds good? Okay, great. So, I will flip over to my gameplay. There we go. Oh, now I have the hiccups. Ah! Alrighty, look how gay it is, folks. Gay. We're off to a fantastic start. So, this is just the demo. However, let me see if I can find exactly what they said to me about it. If my email will work on my phone. It typically does not. Certainly not. Great. Fantastic. Okay. I really love that for me. That's so cool. Hi, Moti girl. You're so cute. Oh, guys, my cat is adorable. And I love her. I love her with my whole heart. So cute. Okay. Hi, little cat. I'm trying to find the email because I want to tell you guys specifically what they say about the demo. Okay. So, because I feel like I gotta promote this properly. Okay. Cage of Roses is a haunting gothic romance set in the 19th century. Follow Mikey, a young woman from an impoverished, good lord, I cannot read, noble family, as she's swept off her feet by the mysterious Magdalena, a vampire who possesses a dark secret. Cage of Roses is developed by Ebi Hime, I believe is how it's pronounced, and published by 2.5 Studios. Okay, so the features, what they've listed, features. Hang on, I'm like looking at my couch. It looks so stupid right now. Oh, kitten, I love you so much, but you constantly just look absolutely dorky. Okay. 95k words of text, which is 4 to 8 hours of reading. A kinetic story with no choices / branches. Detailed character artwork. A haunting original soundtrack, which we are listening to right now, and it sounds really sick. One aloof, austere vampire. I don't know that word, I'm so sorry. A cute maid, and an optional R18 patch. So, how much of that is in the demo? I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine. But, with that all said, with that all being said, we will hop into the game once I reopen the stream manager on my phone. Okay. Let's just jump right into it, people. Let's go. Okay, so this is Henny speaking. Faster, Mikey. And I'm assuming that's Mikey. We're gonna call it Mikey. I don't know if that's correct, but that's what we're saying. Faster, Mikey, faster. You have to keep moving or else. Oh God, they're gaining on us. Do I sound desperate? Was that good voice acting? Mikey ran through the forest as quickly as her legs would carry her, which, given how exhausted she felt, was not very. I'm already obsessed with this. She tried to obey Henny's orders, fearful both of letting her friend down and of the shadowy figures which pursued them, but her body refused to listen. Her legs felt numb, insensible, as unfeeling as marble, but far weaker. It was through sheer force of will that she was able to keep going, and that alone, for all her strength, had... Okay. Try that again. It was through sheer force of will that she was able to keep going, and that alone, for all her strength had already left her. Guys, I'm doing great. I'm doing great at this whole reading thing. Even as Mikey ran, staggering blindly through the fog, she feared it was a lost cause. She was but a young woman, slender and, while not so very short, quite unaccustomed to exerting herself. She was not like Henny, who spent her days on her hands and knees, polishing the floors and blacking the fireplaces. Gosh, I cannot read white text. My eyes do not register it. Mikey's fingers were white as ivory, while Henny's were red raw through demanding, often physical labor. Mikey's lungs, meanwhile, were straining from the agonizing effort of running. Never before had she known that the act of merely existing could be so exhausting. Mikey, please, you need to hurry! Quickly, Mikey! Henny reached back to take hold of Mikey's hand, her coarse, short fingernails digging into Mikey's palm. Henny was gripping so tightly it hurt, but Mikey knew, should she continue to tarry, she would be in for hurt far, far greater than this. Guys, I'm so good at reading. Mikey recalled how her father had looked back in their you know what? I give up. Never mind. I'm not reading ever again. Mikey recalled how her father had looked back in their carriage, his eyes wide and his face unusually pale. Mikey had never seen her father look so scared before. He was a tall, imposing figure of a man, dashing even in his early 50s, who was accustomed to issuing orders, not receiving them. Mikey had thought her father immovable, much like the oak tree which shielded her family's mausoleum, which had stood there longer than the crypt itself, its trunk wide, its boughs weathered, excuse me. But Mikey had learned that even her father had weaknesses. She had once thought her father a force of nature, quite impossible to argue with or to get the better of, but this supposition, good lord, supposition had been turned on its head in a mere handful of minutes. For all of his bluster, Mikey's father was only human. He was made of flesh and blood, like Mikey, and when cut, he would bleed. He had bled a lot, in fact, all over the plush, upholstered seats of their carriage, and onto the floor. His fine clothes had been stained black with the stuff, and the air had stunk of it, sharp and tinny. Mikey could smell her father's blood on her even now, as she and Henny raced through the forest. She couldn't forget it, however much she wished to. Oh, if only the events of that night had been nothing more than a bad dream. Mikey wished that the fog would clear and she would awake, her eyelids fluttering, to discover herself sitting once more in her bed, in her home, the room flooded with pale sunlight. Mikey! But Mikey's surroundings did not shift. The trees continued to press in about her, as though they meant to eat her alive. Their shadowy pursuers were beginning to close in on them. Mikey couldn't outrun them no matter how she tried. She was flagging, her heart hammering in her throat. What would happen when? Mikey was not so optimistic to hope for an if. They caught her. What would they do to Henny? The thought was almost more than Mikey could bear. It had been bad enough to lose her parents, but to lose Henny too? She had done nothing wrong. Henny was no lady. She was just a maid. She was only being targeted because of her relationship to Mikey and her family. Had Henny been traveling alone, she would have passed through the forest quite unscathed. It wasn't as though Henny had any valuables upon her person that were worth the effort of pilfering. Henny... Mikey appealed to her maid between sharp gasps of air, which pierced her lungs as knitting needles might. Please, let go. Leave me be. I'm just slowing you down. No, Mikey, I can't do that. You guys like the very clear distinction between these two characters? Guys, I have one voice and it is my own. I am not a voice actor. But there aren't any buts. I won't leave you behind. That's not what friends do. But Henny... I said there aren't any buts. Now let's keep running. Mikey wanted to run. Really, she did. But her body had already begun to give in. Her heart might have been pumping fit. Her heart might have been pumping fit to burst at the base of her throat, but her legs were weak despite the excess blood which filled her, and her hand in Henny's felt cold and clammy. She couldn't keep going. It wasn't possible. She had exhausted all of her energy simply in escaping from the carriage where her parents' bodies lay. Now she would die only a few hundred paces away from their final resting place. Would her mutilated carcass be discovered in the days hence and taken back to her family's home? Would she and her parents be embalmed and sealed away within their mausoleum? Mikey did not much like this thought. Her family's mausoleum was a terrifying place, full of somber stone angels and spiderwebs. It was quiet, being situated among tall trees, but its quietude was not at all relaxing. Sorry, there's a dog barking outside, so you will hear the dog freaking out, and I apologize for that. I cannot make him stop. Its quiet was the deep, fathomless silence of death. Mikey did not want to die. She knew not how she would continue to live on, with both her parents slaughtered before her very eyes. But she did not want to succumb as they had, in this forest full of fog. I fully almost read fog as frog, and that would have been an entirely different story. Guys, I know how to read! She wanted to go on living, for her sake, and for Henny's, though not necessarily for Walter's. Who the fuck is Walter? God, they're getting closer. Who's Walter? Who the heck is Walter? We haven't heard of a Walter. We need to keep running. Come on, Mikey. But, like the guttering flame of a candle, the last of her energy had been expended. Mikey's foot caught in a tangled tree root, which jutted from the ground like a bear trap, and she fell. Her hand, which was slick with sweat, slipped free from Henny's, her fingers extended forth, plumbing the mists for Henny, but to little avail. Mikey! Henny's voice echoed in Mikey's ears, shrill and frantic, alongside her own pulse. Her heart juttered in her chest, hard, as though meaning to stop altogether, but it did a little good. I have the hiccups, excuse me, folks. Doo-doo-doo-doo. Okay, we're fine. Her head smacked against the ground with a dull, anticlimactic thud, her auburn curls strewn across the scattered leaves, the broken twigs. Mikey's teeth bit against her tongue. It tasted copper. Her vision swam. Mikey! Oh God, Mikey, get up! Please, get up! And then everything went black. Act 1, the night that never ended. Dun dun dun! Alright, folks. How do we feel so far? How do we feel about this game so far? Because just that prologue, just the prologue. Guys, I love visual novels. You do not understand. I'm so stoked. I'm so stoked. This... Ooh, okay. Who has suggestions for what voice I should give Mikey? Does anyone have suggestions? I have a very limited repertoire of character voices. My cat just shoved my laptop. Thank you so much. Let me know if I'm in your way, Mochi. My pretty girl. Who is currently asleep on top of nail polish and a cosplay kimono and a box. As one does. Just the most dramatic. The most dramatic little cat. Okay, so Mikey's this noble lady, right? So I feel like I have to do a little more of a, like, elegant type of voice, but I don't know what to channel for it. I don't know where in the crevasses of my mind I should go. Thanks for the lurk, Draven. Have fun. I don't know where I should go in, like, the general crevasses of my brain to pull out, like, a noble lady voice. So we'll just see what happens. What? When Mikey finally awoke, she was greeted by a dull, crushing pain that gripped her skull like a vice. brackish taste akin to pond water filled her mouth, and with one hand clasped to her head, she coughed. You like my coughing? Guys, I'm such a good voice actor. Oh my god. Mikey's body shuddered and her lungs burned. Oh, sorry. It's supposed to be a more aggressive cough. There you go. She coughed so hard she floated upward. That's crazy. Okay. It took a minute before her coughing fit subsided, but once it did, Mikey began to glance uneasily around her surroundings. She hoped that her immediate surroundings might shed some light upon her predicament, but her hopes were in vain. Mikey did not recognize any of the geometry which encaged her thus. The floor upon which she was sitting, but why was she sitting on the floor of all things, was made of stone, which felt hard and cold and uncompromising. The walls, too, were made of stone, as was the ceiling, which felt very far away. A wooden cot was pushed up close against one of the walls, but it was so steeped in shadows Mikey could scarcely make it out. There was a chamber pot lying by the cot, which, upon closer inspection, was empty, but its rim and sides were stained with caked-on filth. A truly unpleasant odor exuded from the chamber pot, which made Mikey's eyes sting. It was fortunate that she had no immediate desire to relieve herself, for she had no desire to use this commodity. Priorities. A quick examination of the room, though really it was more like a cell, showed Mikey that, save for the cot and the chamber pot, it was utterly desolate. There was no other furniture to be seen, no shelves, nor cupboards, nor even a proper bed. There was no mirror either, so Mikey could not see herself, but perhaps this was a blessing in disguise. Mikey doubted she would be at her best now, being so very in pain and so very exhausted. She was so cold she could feel goosebumps rippling across her flesh, and her teeth were chattering badly. Mikey wound her arms around her middle and shivered sadly. It was not only the chamber pot that stunk. The very air itself was rank, heavy with the stench of unwashed bodies and general decay. This room, this cell, reeked of death. How had she come to such a place? What had happened to her? Mikey could remember sitting alongside her mother and her father in their carriage as it bore them through the forest, and then there, at this most pivotal of moments, her memories failed her. Mikey could recall nothing else. Now what was she to do? Had her parents been there? Had her parents been there, they would have given her instructions. They always seemed to know what Mikey ought to be doing at any given time, and they were not there, and neither was Henny. Mikey was all alone. Henny had been with her, Mikey was certain, before. Oh, my cat. My cat is so cute. Before what? Why could she not remember anything? Oh, Mikey thought sorrowfully. If only she was made of stone, then perhaps her head would not hurt so much. It really did feel that her skull might explode. Not from the pain, though the pain still remained, but from raw, unbridled fear. Mikey had often dreamed of stealing away from her parents' home to embark upon a brand new life, unfettered by expectations, but she had never wished for this. Tears began to trickle down Mikey's cheeks in crystalline droplets. They scored tracks in the dirt which caked her cheeks and dropped one by one to the floor upon which she sat. Her head bowed, fingers splayed against the stones. Mikey sobbed as she sobbed, until... Okay, I gotta think of a voice for this mysterious person. What's going on? A soft voice spoke from amongst the oh, it was supposed to be soft, my bad. A soft voice spoke from amongst the teeming shadows. Mikey could not see the speaker. She could scarcely see at all, given the darkness, and now her own tears, but she recognized its familiar cadences. The voice belonged to Henny, her darling Henny. Oh shit, oh, well, it was just Henny, okay. Mikey's dear friend was here too, in this stone cell which smelt of death, and though Mikey feared for Henny, she felt relief too bubbling up inside her. She was not alone after all. Henny? Mikey crawled forth on her hands and knees, being too exhausted to stand, and stared into the shadows. Henny, is that you? Mikey? Henny replied after a pause, for the voice, though languorous, belonged to her quite unmistakably. There came a rustle from the darkness of sifting cloth, perhaps a skirt, as Henny sat. A shaft of moonlight spilled through the singular barred window, hewn high into the wall of their cell. Finally, Mikey was afforded a view of her maid. I have no idea how to pronounce that name. So christened Henry Henry. You know what? We're moving on. I don't know how to say that, and I'm not gonna try. He had always called her beloved maid Henny. It seemed a more appropriate appellation. God, for so cheery a woman. For Henny, come rain or shine, was rarely seen without a smile. Henny was not smiling now, however. She was sitting upon the wooden cot which Mikey had first spied during her brief examination of her surroundings. What she had taken at first for a crumpled blanket must have been the body of her own dear maid, obscured from her by the shifting shadows. Henny's face looked woefully weary, and it had lost much of its usual pinkness. Her apron, once white, now stained and sullied with dirt. Henny's shoes had been black and sensible, but now they were mired in filth, and her socks were rucked up about her ankles. Henny's eyes were wide and displayed so much white her irises seemed lost in them. This lent her a startled look, as like a small woodland animal. A look which was heightened further by her knotted, tangled tresses. Henny's hands, which she held at her front, clasped together, were trembling like those of a woman thrice her age. Henny looked an awful sight, but Mikey knew she could hardly have been any better herself. Henny's hair might have been a mess, but at least she kept it short. There was not so very much of Henny's dark tresses to be worked into a state of disorder. Mikey's own hair, meanwhile, was very long and curly, and though she had worn it in a bignon? I don't know what that is, and I am going to Google! bun. Got it. Okay. Fantastic. It's a very fancy bun. Got it. She can now feel it straggling loosely about her shoulders. The back of her neck prickled, either from the cold or from a dislodged hairpin or two. Perhaps that was why Henny stared at Mikey so, once she had regained her own sense of equilibrium, as though she had seen a ghost. My God, Mikey! Henny looked so alarmed, Mikey felt almost ashamed. Mikey was no stranger to shame. She felt it frequently, in fact, when she was with her mother, but it rarely raised its ugly head in Henny's presence. Since Mikey's girlhood, Henny had been her one staunch, steadfast companion. She was the only person Mikey knew who... okay. She was the only person Mikey knew who took Mikey for who she was, rather than wishing, often aloud to her face, that she could be more appreciative, more word. more effusive? Oh my God, I don't know English. English is my first and only language. I have literally no excuse for not knowing these words. Like, I know them. I can read them and I'm like, yes, I know this word. But for the... I have never had to say them out loud. More like a lady and less like herself. Hetty did not want Mikey to be more. She only wanted Mikey to be Mikey. Did that mean then that Mikey did not look like Mikey in that moment? But who else did she resemble if not herself? What had happened to her? Are you alright, Mikey? Oh, look at your poor face! Henny rose from the wooden cot, which creaked, and crouched before her friend. Reaching out, still shaking, she cupped Mikey's cheeks in her fingers and said, "You're bleeding." "I am?" "Yes, you've got a nasty cut beneath your right eye and your cheek." Henny sucked in a breath, her expression grim. "It's all banged up. You're positively black and blue." "Oh, I hadn't realized. I'm sorry, Henny." "What?" Henny, who had procured a handkerchief from her skirt pocket, it, fortunately, was devoid of dirt, paused in her dabbing at Mikey's face to lick at Mikey with amusement. "Why are you apologizing to me, you daft goose? You've done nothing to feel sorry for." I don't know. I'm just sorry for making you worry, I suppose." "Aw, think not of it. It's my job to worry about you. I'm your maid, remember?" "Well, of course I remember that much. My thoughts might be in a state of disarray for the present, but I would never forget you." "You are much more than my maid, Henny. You're my friend, too, my dearest friend." "And I could very well say the same about you. That's why it hurts seeing you in such a frightful state. Do I look so very bad?" "Well now." Henny cast her gaze over Mikey's face, her brown eyes brightening with familiar mischief as she did. "That depends on how honest you want me to be." "Oh dear." "Do I look as bad as all that?" "You've certainly looked better. Your face is all banged up. Is as banged up as a windfall apple." An apple? Mikey shook her head in wonderment. "I only hope that the apple isn't ridden with worms." don't think you've anything to worry about on that score, at least. Well, that is a relief. I suppose things could always be worse. Right you are. That's the spirit. Oh, I already love Henny. I already love Henny with my whole heart. You're still alive, and so am I, and we're together. That ought to count for something. Although... Henny finished wiping the worst of the congealed blood and dirt from Mikey's cheek, then drew back, her soiled kerchief gripped tight in her hand. Her expression newly dour, she said after a moment's pause, I am afraid that your parents mayn't have been so fortunate. What? Mikey's heart leapt in her chest at this somber announcement. What happened to them, Henny? Do you know what's going on? You don't? I recall that we were traveling to Augsburg to visit my fiancé, and as for how we came here... Mikey closed her eyes in the hope of remembering something, but again, nothing came. Her mind remained stubbornly blank, as featureless as a snow-capped mountain, all flora blanketed in untrammeled whiteness. I am afraid I am drawing a blank. I cannot remember. Not a single thing? Nothing. I see. Henny grit her teeth together for a few moments, her eyes dark. She seemed to be weighing up her words, as a baker might measure out flour and sugar before speaking. That's not such a surprise, I suppose. You hit your head pretty hard back there. It might be for the best that you can't remember all the gory details. I wish I could forget what happened myself, but... Henny's voice trailed away as, awkwardly, she gripped her kerchief. That kerchief! I like saying it wrong. Kerchief! Had been the only clean thing in Mikey and Henny's cell, but now it, too, was ruined, streaked with brown and red. How deep was the cut that Mikey had sustained, and how much had she bled? This, too, remained a mystery. Mikey did not know. There seemed much, all of a sudden, she was ignorant of. She felt so very unworldly, she might as well have been a little girl again. Enthused after she had successfully stolen the key to her family's mausoleum. Mikey had not known, as she stood in the chill entrance of the mausoleum, that she was about to lower herself into a subterranean world of death and decay, though part of her had wondered. Henny. Mikey took Henny's hand in her own, her fingernails cracked, discolored, and dusted with dirt, digging into her skin. What happened? Tell me, please. I want to know. Yes, I thought you might. That does make things a mite complicated, though. I don't want to be the bearer of bad news. Just... Henny looked to Mikey beneath half-lidded eyes, her expression distressed, uncommonly pale and pinched. Promise you won't take against me for what I'm about to tell you. I've gone through a lot tonight already, and that would be the straw to break the camel's back. Henny, please. You should know that is a trivial concern. I'm fully aware that none of this is your fault. You have only ever sought to protect me. I have no better friend than you, not in all the world. And it's precisely because I want to protect you that I don't want to go into all this. I know it'll upset you. Christ. It upsets me too. It's an upsetting situation all around. It's rotten, really, what people are capable of, but... Henny, perhaps sensing her own distress, paused. She inhaled. Then, in a calmer tone, she said, "Just how much do you want to know, Mikey? How much is there to know?" "Oh, I remember everything. I'll always remember tonight, I expect. It made quite the impression. Horrible things always do." "But oh dear, are things truly that dire?" "They're... pretty bad, yes." Oh my god, no, Bootin is streaming! Holy shit, guys! Guys, Bill's streaming! And I, for the first time ever, am going to either miss or be late to his stream. For the first time in several months. Anyway, give me an abridged account then. I have no need to hear anything. Everything. Excuse me. Oh, you scare yourself, Morty. You scare yourself, baby. Right you are. Honey bowed her head in acquiescence, her face half swallowed by the shadows. The band of light which had penetrated their drab cell had long since been extinguished. The moon obscured beneath the rolling fog. God, I don't know how to say words. Also, excuse me, I have the hiccups. It was so cold in their cell, Mikey could not cease her shivers. Even her teeth felt cold, like shards of ice implanted into her gums. Henny's proximity served as something of a comfort, but it could not rid Mikey of trepidation. Hey, I really love that there was an ad break that I didn't know about because for some reason it didn't show up on my phone. Very cool, I love that. I'm so sorry for anyone who just missed the last, 3 minutes of gameplay. My bad. That's a my bad. That's a oopsie. I was trying so hard to keep an eye on it. My bad, folks. Henny's proximity served as something of a comfort, but it could not rid Mikey of her trepidation. She knew, once Henny relayed the past events to her, her life would no longer be the same. Everything would change. It was changing already, in fact, so quickly that Mikey hardly had a chance to gather her bearings. She felt lost, adrift, and hopelessly afraid. I am sorry to tell you this, Mikey, but during our travels, the carriage, it was attacked by bandits. What? No. Yes, they came creeping out from the fog, like, I don't know, monsters from a children's story maybe, but much scarier. They waylaid the carriage, then stormed it. They drew out their daggers and threatened your father, and when he refused to comply, well... Henny's expression twisted. They stabbed him. What? Mikey drew in a sharp inhalation of air, her whole body tensing. She had expected as much before Henny began her gruesome tale, but the news still shook her. Evidently, she had not been half so prepared to hear the worst as she had imagined. Good God, I do not know how to say words. Also, please, for the love of God, let my computer function. Do 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 do. My computer will not, in fact, function. Do do do. My computer is now freaking out. Do 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 do. There we go. Thanks, Mochi. Oh God. Wrong person. Oh God, not my papa. My poor papa. Don't tell me he didn't. I'm so sorry, but... Honey sniffed. As you're probably suspecting. His wound was a deep one, and he died. Dead? My papa? Dead? I don't know if that's actually papa, but I'm gonna keep saying papa. Because I like saying it dramatically. Papa! Oh my God, Henny, have a little tact. Dead as a doornail, I'm afraid. I didn't hang around to see what had happened. But... Well... It happened so quick, I don't think he suffered, at least. And my mama? What of her? Don't tell me she also... Henny did not reply, and the discomfort which crossed her face left Mikey with no doubts as to her mother's fate. In one brief night, both of Mikey's parents had been slaughtered. Now she was an orphan. And what of us, Henny? How did we escape? I find it hard to believe that bandits would just let us go. Oh, I'm sure we would have joined your parents if we'd sat still, like good little girls, but I didn't want to do that. Good job, Henny. I took your hand while they were busy with your mother, and we ran away. We fled through the woods, but the bandits took chase pretty darn quick. Henny has no tact as to not say that Mikey's father is dead as a doornail, but has enough tact to correct herself from saying damn to darn. Good job, Henny. We stan Henny. Let's get yaps in the chat for Henny. Because I don't have any emotes. It was very dark and the fog was thick, and I could hardly see what was happening. At one point you tripped and you fell, and that's how you got that nasty cut on your poor forehead. And I was dragged down with you. We lay there on the ground, in the dirt, while the bandits tramped about looking for us. I figured we were both a couple of goners. I'd started to say my prayers to the Lord Almighty. Then... We survived. Yes, we survived. This, Mikey supposed, was not such a surprise. It went without saying, really, that they had survived. Otherwise, they would not have been sitting in this ghastly cell, speaking to one another. Either the bandits had spared them, which seemed unlikely, or somebody had come to their defense. I have the hiccups! Ah! Sorry, I had the hiccups, guys! Who would have been wandering the woods so very late at night, however? Mikey could hardly credit it. Their escape must have been the stuff that fantasies were made of. You know how we escaped, Henny? Well, he just almost knocked over my laptop. I know what my eyes saw, but if my eyes can be trusted or not, well, that's another matter altogether. I think I might have bumped my head myself. It was also peculiar. At the time, it seemed like a miracle. But looking back on it, that ain't the right word. Miracles suggest God and all his angels. But there was not wholly about this. It was a right proper mess, really. A total bloodbath. Blood? Yes, there was blood. And lots of it. It's hard for me to explain, but alls I know is one moment we were sprawled upon the dirt, you unconscious, I half out of my mind with fright as the bandits approached, and then the next they were gone. Gone? But where? And how? Did they run away? Not necessarily. Not of their own free will, like. The fog parted, you see, and then this figure, this woman. A woman! Sorry. Guys, I crack myself up. I think I'm really funny. She appeared so quick, it was like she'd sprung up from the earth. Wasn't very tall. I don't think she was, at least. She was very skinny. The way she looked. The way she moved. There was something unnatural about her. Also, I feel like I've given Henny like 4 different voices. I don't think any of them match every time I like switch between. I'm just kind of like in the general range. I don't know. I just work here. I didn't get a very good look at what happened next, but I saw her go after those bandits. I think there were at least 4 of them, but that woman soon took care of them. There was so much blood and a lot of mud. It stunk to high heaven, it did. Brought tears to my eyes. That woman, though, the woman in white, she didn't seem fussed at all. She stood there once she had finished, beneath the moon, like nothing had happened. And then Honey pressed her fingers to her brow and, overwhelmed, her head. I don't remember not after that. I think I must have fainted. When I finally woke up, I found myself here. It was your crying that woke me up. I've never been able to rest easy while you're in tears, Mikey. Yes, I know. You've always been so good and so kind. Thank you, Henny. Mikey chanced a smile, though the muscles about her mouth felt atrophied, worn away, following the news of her parents' demise, and her own near brush with the Reaper's scythe. I have no idea what I would do without you. It sounds like you saved me. From the bandits, I suppose I did. But I wasn't much use when you took that nasty spill. There's no way I would have been able to carry you to safety. Not when we were all turned about in the woods and I'd no idea where we were. I think I scraped my own shin, too. My ankle aches. Good job, Henny. Priorities. We'd have been goners if that woman hadn't appeared. But now that I'm talking about it, it doesn't sound real. I can't think of any woman who would have been able to beat 4 men in a test of strength. Not even your own Mademoiselle Blanchard. Another character that we don't know who it is. Wow. Mikey's smile widened at this, despite the severity of their situation, and she found, to her surprise, she was even able to laugh. It was a weak laugh, which contained a little in the way of mirth, but it was sincere. Henny never failed to cheer her up. She must have had a knack for it. Mikey was too old to believe in magic, but when she was with Henny, she sometimes wondered. Are you sure it was a woman who fended off those bandits? Perhaps it was some sort of animal instead and you failed to perceive it in the fog? That could be it. Like I said, my mind's a mess. I feel like I've lost a good 10 years off of my life. Although... Here, Henny smiled grimly in the manner of all survivors after witnessing something horrid. That's better than having it cut short altogether. We must be thankful for small mercies, yes, even if our lives were saved at my parents' expense. Mikey squeezed her eyes shut. You could feel tears beating upon her lashes anew. This time, she was able to subdue them. The news of her parents' deaths was a heavy burden to bear. But Mikey, not having witnessed their final moments, found it hard to imagine. It still did not seem quite real, despite the rawness of Henny's account. The shock of it all, perhaps, had blundered her senses. It would take a while for her parents' passing to truly register. When it did, however, Mikey did not doubt the tears would come, thicker and faster than before. It had not always been so, but her childhood misadventures in her family's crypt had left her something of a crybaby. It was fortunate she had Henny by her side to dry her eyes. What would she have done without her trusty maid? Now then. Mikey inhaled, her chest rising beneath her torn gown, and glanced about. Where do you suppose we are? And how do you suppose we got here? That's a good question. I've been wondering that too, ever since we awoke. It's not the nicest of digs, is it? Priorities, Hetty, priorities. Hi, Celeste! How are you? Oh my god, it's so good to see you! Coming in here being all, oh my oh! You know how to flatter a girl, Celeste! How are you doing? Not particularly, no. It's awfully drab and it's damp too. I'm freezing. Am good. I wanted to say hi while I'm cleaning up before stream. Well, thank you for stopping by. I appreciate it and I'm glad you're doing well. I love that for you. We are playing Cage of Roses, which is on a demo currently. It is being produced by 2.5 Studios, who produced our other game that we are playing on my lovely channel, which is A Date with Death. Gonna lurk? Fantastic. I'm gonna keep explaining. Anyway, all you really need to know about this game is that it's lesbians and there's a vampire involved. That's pretty much all I know. Ma'am, I told you I'd be supporting you. Thank you, Celeste. I appreciate it. This is not the official stream. So accept my love. I do. Begrudgingly, I do. Yeah. So, I'm gonna try... I think my sister's gonna be home at the end of this week. So I'm gonna try to get in at least one more stream. where I'll have my friends come on. You love that. Yeah, it's honestly, it's great so far. And full disclosure for the game, I did have an early access code, technically, and then I did not see my email in time, so it is publicly available now. Also, you get to hear my wonderful voice acting, by which I mean all of the characters change voices pretty much every time I voice them, because I don't remember what I did 10 seconds ago. Anyway, I'm going to message you later, because to lock in a day and time to have people come on for like the education stream. So it should be you, Hazy, I believe Draven wants to be involved, and possibly Lumi? Unclear. Lumi just started a new job, so unclear if they will be able to make it, but at the very least, you three. All I have right now is that Thursday works for Hazy, so I will message you later about that. And yeah, it'll be this week. It'll be this week because my sister will be coming back home at the end of the week, I believe. So yeah, like I said, all I have locked in is that Hazy says Thursday this week works. Other than that, I don't know. So you are welcome to DM me. Availability. To catch you up on the game, so far we have Penny, who is our maid. We have Mikey, who is our noble lady. And, they were attacked by bandits, and Mikey's parents were both killed. And now they are in a cell. And that's what we know so far. You poor thing, you. Come here. Henny shifted closer to Mikey, then drew her arms about her, holding her close, so as to protect her from the frigid air. Henny glanced about her, as did Mikey. She squinted into the shadows, as though they might reveal more than they had upon her initial inspection, namely the wooden cot and the chamber pot beside it. But, to Mikey's disappointment, she found the cell quite unchanged. It was every bit as sparse as she recalled. The shadows did little to mask this fact, and still, it stank. Goodness me, it's not much to look at, is it? We might as well be in a prison cell. I love how they keep saying, oh my god, we might as well be in a cell. You are in a cell. like you straight up are. Have they not noticed the bars on the one, like, this is so funny. I think that might be what this is. Henny drew back from Mikey, her legs crossed beneath her upon the stone floor, and frowned. I reckon you're right. I wonder who brought us here. You and me both. It was nice of our mysterious benefactor, or benefactress, to rescue us. Though they can't be all that kind if they're going to let us suffer in here. You'd think they could at least have put us up in a nicer room. I love Henny with my whole heart. Henny, my beloved. She's so funny. I'm not expecting first-class accommodations, but you deserve better than this, Mikey. This place isn't fit for rats, let alone people. I love Henny. It's alright. It's better than being dead, at least, even if these lodgings are a mite uncomfortable. Only a mite? Well, Mikey corrected herself with a smile. Quite a bit, if I'm being honest. Mikey drew her arms about her legs, her knees beneath her chin, and said, "When I woke up, I was lying on the floor." On the floor? Penny's eyebrows shot up her forehead until they met her hairline. The gesture was so exaggerated it managed to bring another smile to Mikey's lips, despite how very dire their situation was. I suppose it makes sense, there being only one bed, but oh, that is too much. I can't believe they'd fling you about like a sack of sawdust. Many unbelievable things have happened tonight. Our benefactor must have been bucking the trend. Some benefactor! When I get my hands on them, I'll give them what for! Don't, Henny. It wouldn't do to pick a fight with whomever brought us here. I wouldn't want to anger them. Not when we are at their mercy. Why? But that makes us sound like captives. Henny, I'm gonna hold your hand when I tell you this. Henny, I'm gonna hold your hand when I tell you this. Is that not what we are? This is a cell, after all, and we have no means of escaping. We're being treated as prisoners. I know, but it still stings. I don't care about me, but I don't want to see you being treated like a convict. Not when you've been through so much. You've been through worse. At least I don't remember what happened, unlike you. And you're the one who will be saddled with the consequences, poor Mikey. It was your parents, not mine, who were... Well... I don't expect there's much point in trying to suss out who's suffering more than who. As it stands, we're both in this together. We're all in this together. Da-na-na. Okay. I find myself funny. You guys might not be amused, but I am. I won't abandon you, Mikey, so try not to worry. Keep your chin up. We'll get through this. Thank you, Henny. I almost believe it, coming from you. You should. I don't say things I don't mean, you know. I love Henny. I love Henny with my whole heart right now. Now, let's see. Maybe things aren't as dire as they look. There could be a way to escape yet. Henny rose to her feet, though unsteadily, and did a circuit of the cell. The shadows made it seem larger than it was, for they obscured the walls. But it did not take Henny many steps to canvass the full length of the dingy room. She pressed her fingertips to the walls, then her ear, as though the stonework might whisper unto her their weaknesses. Why is it like the easy words that I'm tripping up on? I am a professional. But her efforts were in vain. The walls held firm, as did the steely slats which crisscrossed the entrance. Penny took the bars between her fingers and squeezed experimentally. They refused to yield. Oh, come on! Ooh. Frustrated now, Henny gave the bars a kick. The tip of her shoe collided with them. Losing clods of dirt... losing clods of dirt from her soles. But good God. Damn it all! The bars, as before, did not budge. They were quite impermeable. Sighing, Henny soon changed back. She moved from the door to glance up at the window. This was similarly barred. Too high up to reach, and much too small to squeeze through. It seemed a miracle, almost, the window, being so mean, allowed any moonlight at all to spill into the cell, when the clouds and the fog shifted. And? Mikey asked when a disenchanted Henny flopped back down beside her with a rustle of her skirts. Did you uncover anything? Not all, except that we're trapped, more trapped than I thought. I think you might have come to that conclusion, yes. God. And he kicked off her right shoe, then began to massage her feet, which had begun to throb. This is a rum situation. I wonder what we're to do. I don't think there is much we can do other than wait. I suppose you're right. I can't say I like the thought of that, though. We're sitting ducks here. I feel we ought to be taking some kind of action. Henny looked about the cell once more, then sighed. But I'm drawing a blank here. I can't think of anything we could do. I'm sorry for being so hopeless, Mikey. I meant to look after you, but I'm at a total loss. Don't apologize, dear Henny. I feel better simply being with you. That's something, at least. I wish I could be of some real use, though. You are of real use. Without you, I'd be an unconscionable mess, weeping on the floor. Well, we can't be having that. Breaks my heart to see you cry. Much as it breaks mine to see you flagellate. So, over something that is not your fault. Touche. Now that we're well and truly stuck here, I suppose we ought to make the best of it. Although, I have a bad feeling about this place. It gives me the creeps. I don't know who imprisoned us here, or what cause, but they've no manners to speak of. Why, it's almost as if... Annie began, but she found herself unable to finish the sentence. Sound issued forth from the darkness, emitting from beyond their tightly sealed cell. It was a faint sound, like that of far-off rain, but Henny still heard it. Sour air being so still and silent. It sounded like a scream. Good God! Henny sat up straighter, her fingers digging into her arches, her eyes alert. What in the world was that? I suppose that was just the wind? Do you really think so? Yes, I imagine. Mikey answered in the affirmative, though deep down, both she and Henny knew the truth. That had not been the wind. It had been too raw, too pained, too, though faint, unmistakably human. There were other cells, or so it seemed, besides theirs, where others were incarcerated, others whom, right now, were being tortured by unknown hands. Mikey could feel the fine hairs on the back of her neck standing up. Her body, which felt constrained by her stays, quivered. All she could do was sit there, her legs pressed to her chest, like a fitful young girl, as she murmured, more for her own benefit than Henny's. It was the wind. That's all it was. It's the wind. It's nothing to worry about. It's nothing, really. Everything will be fine. With no obvious way of escape and very little to do, Mikey and Henny had no choice but to idle their time away. They sat upon the stone floor together. They could, Mikey supposed, have sat upon the wooden cot, but it did not seem sturdy enough for the both of them, with their legs folded primly, like two little girls conducting a make-believe tea party. Henny had, at first, balked at the thought of her mistress sitting on the floor like a plebeian. But Mikey's dress was already so dirty it scarce mattered. The two women did not, however, abandon themselves to inertia. Henny knew they had to do something to take their minds off their ghastly predicament. Fortunately, Henny was not empty-handed. She had in her pocket, alongside the kerchief she had used to wipe Mikey's cheek, a pack of cards. These cards were bent at the corners, but they remained perfectly functional. For want of a better way to use their time, Henny proposed to Mikey a game of Joker, which she soon accepted. Henny cut the deck, then dealt out the cards, her motions deft despite her trembling. Both Henny and Mikey were familiar with card games. They often played rounds to pass the hours. There being precious few amusements that ladies of Mikey's caliber were permitted to do. Were it not for Henny and her games, Mikey feared she would have lost her mind from fright. The two women played several rounds of Joker, examining their decks and examining their decks and dispensing of cards. The game did not require a great degree of tactical thinking, but it helped alleviate some of Mikey's concerns. It could not, alas, alleviate the cold, but Mikey had been shivering for so long she had almost grown accustomed to it. She had been in the dank, miserable cell for so long she could scarcely remember how it even felt to be warm. Had her journey to Augsburg continued impeded, I don't know how to fucking talk, she would now be sitting by the fire in Walter Gerhard's living room, or else tucked up in one of his many guest bedrooms, with a warming pan at her feet. Ah, that's who Walter is. She hates him. She does not like this man. Both Augsburg and Walter Gerhard seemed very far away to Mikey now, though being confined thus in a prison cell. How long had she been sitting with Henny on the floor, shivering? Mikey did not know. She could not tell. She had lost all conception of time and its passing. It had become nebulous to her, unformed and unfixed. All Mikey really knew, in her infinite ignorance, was that the night seemed hopelessly long. She hopelessly small and insignificant. There was no clock in Mikey's cell, and neither she nor Henny carried timepieces upon them. The only means Mikey had of tracking the advancement of the hour was the sliver of sky she could see beyond the narrow window, situated high above her head. She could recall that the sky had been dark upon her waking, and it remained so now, 3 games of Joker later. The moon, which emerged from the fog at irregular intervals, shone its pallid light upon Mikey's head and upon her hand of cards, lighting her Joker and his wide, rictus grin. Hi, cat, do you want me to hold this for you so you don't fall? There you go. Good job. Success. Cat did not fall. Success. I just got a message from my sister that just says, "These are the guys you like, right?" And it's an Instagram reel. And I'm a little scared. I don't know which of the many men that I am unfortunately into that she could have sent me. Mikey had never cared for the Joker in Henny's trusty pack of cards. His expression unnerved her. Every once in a while, as she played, Mikey spared a few glances upwards at the barred window. She could not hope to guess at the hour, but she knew it was late. It had been late when the bandits had descended upon her parents, and it was still late now. Perhaps 1 hour had passed since the attack, or 2. It could have been an advanced hour of the night. Or could have been, by the same token, the very, very early hours of the following morning. The calendar might have shifted already from one day to the next, but Mikey was none the wiser. Mikey could not believe, though, when she tilted her head, that the sun had any intention of soon putting in an appearance. The darkness which abounded within her cell was too complete for it. The cards in her hands almost inscrutable without the aid of the moon's light. Mikey could not hear either the telltale twittering of birdsong, which often announced the coming dawn. When did the birds begin to chirp among the boughs of the trees beyond her bedroom window? Mikey could not recall, but she thought it must have been around 6 in the morning. Mikey had gone to bed at 10 every night, like a dutiful daughter, despite her advancing years. But she had often found it hard to sleep for a full, unbroken 8 hours. She would arise at odd hours, at 1 or 2 or 3, her head full of thoughts, and often she found it hard to sleep again. When this occurred, Mikey would rise from bed to sit by her windowsill, her forehead, in the summer, pressed to the glass that always helped to cool her, and her errant thoughts alongside it. Oh, how her mind raced. It seemed quite unfair, really, that she should be cursed with so many thoughts when her parents demanded only that she be a perfect, passive doll of a woman, with no opinions at all. I know, Mochi, I'll open the window soon. I'm so sorry. I gotta close it because the dog looks out the window and then starts barking because he sees people. But I had to cover it. I'm sorry, baby. My cat wants to watch TV, which is, looking out the window, but I had to put one of my tote lids up to cover the window because otherwise the dog barks. Because he can see people. With weary eyes, Mikey would look out at her back garden, steeped in shadows, and the cobblestone streets beyond it. Others might have found the night in its fathomless stillness uncomfortable, but Mikey quite enjoyed it. At least she did not have to perform when all else were abed. She was free to feel and think as she wanted, without fear of being reproached. Mikey, her mother often scolded her as she sat in the dining room for uncomfortable family meals. You are furrowing your brow again. Have I not warned you against it? It is most unattractive. What must Gerhard think if he could see you now? Mikey would always apologize for these faults of hers, no matter how slight, but inwardly smoldered. She did not like being spoken down to as if she were a child. Now, at least, after the night's horrors, she needed no longer worry about furrowing her brow in an unbecoming way as she sipped her soup. Silver linings, I guess. She no longer had a mother to scold her. She would never see her mother nor her father again. And what of Walter? Of that, Mikey had no earthly idea. Oh, this is ridiculous. Henny groused while examining her own cards. We ought to be at Gerhard's right now, safe as houses. One moment, I gotta text my sister. Let's see. Let's see if this gives us an opening to save here soon. We weren't so very far from Augsburg. At least I don't think we were when we were attacked. Why did those bandits have to go after us? We were just unfortunate, I suppose. I can't imagine the bandits meant specifically to target us. We just happened to be there. You're probably right, but goodness. Of all the awful luck. At least you've had a fair run during our game. You've beaten me out soundly during every single hand. Ha! Well, true. I suppose I should thank heaven for small mercies, eh? Henny smiled at Mikey's attempt to cheer her, but it didn't last. Both Henny's smile and Mikey's cheer were half-hearted, and soon they were swallowed by the sinister darkness of their cell. It's a shame I don't feel more thankful. I wonder what Gerhard would make of this. I don't know why Gerhard is such a hard name for me, but apparently it is. He'd be off his head, I'm sure, if he knew the state you're being kept in, Mikey. I'm in a rage too, for you and him. You deserve far better than this. You're a von Essen, for crying out loud. The person who's holding us here will feel mighty sorry when they realize who you are. You're a real lady. Maybe. Mikey's reply was vague, in both tone and meaning. Not even Mikey herself was sure whether she meant to disparage Henny's optimistic assertions that her status as a lady would grant her any favors with their captors, or whether she was a lady at all. Mikey had been born to a noble family, it was true, with a lineage which could be traced back centuries, but the von Essens were not what they had been. Half a century of poor financial decisions and a grandfather with a compulsive gambling addiction had led to the squandering of much of the von Ess's wealth. While still in possession of their family home and a veritable fleet of maidservants, the family's finances had been in a dire state ever since Mikey's girlhood. Though not openly wanting for cash, Mikey's parents had made a good many purchases based on their family's prestige rather than the figures in their bank account. Mikey's wedding to heir Gerhardt had been an attempt to shore up the family's wealth before they could fall from grace altogether, but now that seemed an impossibility. How can Mikey wed Walter when she was incarcerated? If Mikey had loved Walter, she surely would have shed tears over such a cruel fate. I love the commentary, it's so funny. As it was, however, she was curiously calm. What did she care how Walter Gerhardt felt? She barely knew him. Well, not to worry. Herr Gerhard must be sitting in his drawing room now, wondering where the places we are. I have no idea what time it is. That, Mikey thought glumly, made 2 of them. But we should have arrived in Augsburg ages ago. Herr Gerhard is sure to send out a search party before long. He'll be worried sick about you, Mikey. Do you really think so? Absolutely. I mean, he is your fiancé. He's got to be worried. You're such a sweet thing. I don't see how he couldn't. One moment, I gotta text my sister again because God forbid she does anything for herself. Doo-doo. The pepperoni, the 3 variety. I didn't get to it in time to say yes or no on the substitution. God forbid she look at anything for herself. Doo-doo. Thank you, Henny. I appreciate it. Don't thank me, Mikey. I'm just stating the facts. I love Henny with my whole heart. If I was a man and I had a fiancé like you can bet that I wouldn't let you out of my sight. Perhaps it's a good thing that I'm in here with you then. You, at least, know I'm alright. Yes, you are, and thank heaven on high for it. You know I'd do anything to keep you safe, Mikey. I know. Mikey could well believe that, coming from Henny. When it came to Henny's claims about Walter, however, Mikey was less certain. What did she know about Walter, really, other than his age and his occupation, and how fabulously, excessively wealthy he was? Mikey had met Walter on only 3 past occasions, and they'd exchanged almost as many words. The man was a stranger to her, and Mikey's desire to marry him was inversely proportional with her parents' desire to see her walking down the aisle. Mikey had been dreading her visit to Augsburg for well over a month. Now it had been terminated, she felt a perverse sort of relief. Part of Mikey had begun to wonder, as she sat in her cell, whether the bandits' attack had brought with it some good, alongside all the bad. But that, Mikey chastised herself, was hopelessly cruel. Were her parents' lives truly worth that little to her? It was true enough that she may never see Walter Gerhard again, but she would never see her mother nor her father again either. It was not a fair trade, not by any stretch of the imagination. How could she have ever thought such a thing? It must, Mikey thought grimly, be because I am a bad daughter. My mother was right. I am ungrateful. Perhaps this, then, is a punishment from God. I never appreciated them while they were alive, and now they are dead. How cruel and callous I am. Henny might have called Mikey sweet, but Mikey found this hard to believe. A lifetime beneath her mother's iron, implacable implacable role had taught Mikey how to be submissive, but it had not taught her sweetness. She smiled and simpered because it was expected of her, but late at night, when she could not sleep, she seethed. Mikey had resented her parents and Walter alongside them for a long time. That Henny did not know this was perturbing. Henny must not have known Mikey all that well after all. Or perhaps, Mikey thought, with a shiver, it was she who did not truly know herself. Mikey and Henny sat in their cell for what could have been minutes or hours or even days, whiling away the time. By God, there was so much time, with continued unending, incessant games of Joker. Mikey's heart was not in the game, her head being otherwise occupied, and Henny trounced her soundly, 12-1. Henny was better than Mikey at card games in general, so this came as little surprise. Mikey was accustomed to losing, and accepted her failures with good grace. There were more important things in life than card games. And, in any event, Mikey had never cared for the jokers in Henny's deck. He preferred to be rid of them. Little of note happened during these dead, empty hours. Nobody came to visit Henny and Mikey in their cell, and the faint screams both women had heard, though Mikey was staunchly determined to think of it as the wind, did not see fit to impinge upon their solitude. The sky beyond their prison cell, meanwhile, remained dark, like a braved window outfitted in mourning clothes. The cold remained oppressive, the stone floor uncomfortable, and Mikey found little in the way of relief no matter how much she shifted. Mikey had just begun to wonder, in a detached way, as Henny launched into their 14th round of Joker, whether they would ever meet their rescuer. Perhaps whoever had hauled them from the forest had done so not as an act of kindness, but as a means of prolonging their suffering. Maybe they meant to keep them locked in this cell, alone, until time itself slowed to a trickle, then ceased. The squalid stone walls tumbling down about them to crush their emaciated corpses in the debris. But soon, shockingly soon, or so it seemed, despite all of the interminable waiting, Mikey found her hypothesis proved wrong. She could hear, above the sound of Henny shuffling the deck, a sound. Footsteps. The footsteps were soft enough at first that Mikey wondered whether she had imagined them, but as the seconds elapsed, they became louder still, until even Henny heard them. Goodness me! Henny fumbled with the cards, then threw them down, face up. Red hearts and black spades split across the stone. Can you hear that, Mikey? Snooze the ad break. Snoozed for 5 minutes. Yay. Yes, I can. Somebody must be coming. Our rescuer from the woods, do you think? They could be our rescuer, yes, but maybe. Mikey did not finish this thought. Her saliva felt too thick in her throat, like tar, and she shivered. She did not want to extinguish the hope which she could see flickering now in Henny's eyes. That would have been cruel. Henny's head swiveled to the grated iron door. Excitable as a puppy, and wide-eyed, she peered through the shadows. There is something beneath my foot. This is a turn for the better. I was beginning to worry they'd forgotten all about us. Can't wait to come face to face with them. I'll be sure to tell them exactly what I think about their so-called hospitality. You've said that once before, Henny, and I wish you wouldn't. I don't want to anger them. Oh, stuff and nonsense. I'm sure it will be fine. Sure, Henny. If anything happens to Henny, I will be very unwell. If they wanted to harm us, they had plenty of chances to do it already, surely. That is true, but... The footsteps drew closer still, echoing about the stone walls, echoing too inside Mikey's skull. The footsteps could represent only two things. They would mean salvation, or if they were lucky, but Mikey found it difficult to believe this. Neither she nor Henny had been very lucky that night, despite Henny's continued winning hands in Joker. It seemed far more likely that these footsteps would bring about yet more suffering. And, sure enough... Well, would you look what the cat dragged in? The voice that cut through Mikey's musings was a proud, haughty one, the syllables polished to perfection like cut glass. The voice belonged, quite obviously, to a woman, and, given her pronunciation, she must have been well-bred. Perhaps their rescuer, too, was a lady, Yvonne such-and-such, as Mikey was, from a family whose ancestral home was vast and old and grand enough to have its very own dungeon. Whereas most nobility used their subterranean storage spaces for wine cellars, this family seemed to prefer taking prisoners. The thought did not fill Mikey with much confidence. About her mysterious rescuer. Anxiously, she glanced up to meet the source of said voice. And when she did... Oh! Mikey could not help but gasp in surprise. The owner of the voice, who now stood upon the opposite side of the cell's door, was not at all what Mikey had imagined. She was shorter than Mikey had expected, shorter than Mikey herself, who was dwarfed by her wealthier, significantly older fiancé, and slender with it, her cheekbones high, her neck not dissimilar to the stem of a flower. Her skin was frighteningly pale, like that of a corpse, and beneath her eyes, Mikey could see dark rings similar to those she often sported during the long nights at her bedroom window, unable to sleep. The woman, or was she a girl, had hair so fair it was almost white, which almost seemed to glow in the moon's light. Her hair was not worn, as most women did, in a chignon? I still don't know how to pronounce it. I didn't learn. When I looked it up, I only looked up what it was. I did not look up how to pronounce it, because I did not think it was going to come up again. That's my bad. But instead was loose. It tumbled upon her shoulder, about her shoulders in waves, all disarrayed, in a manner which would have made Mikey's mother swoon from the sheer impropriety of it all. The girl's appearance, but was she a girl? Was striking, not only because of her indeterminable age, but because of her eyes, widely spaced and fringed with the most luxurious of lashes. Good God. I know English, I swear. Her irises were not brown like Henny's, nor blue like Mikey's. They were not green, nor hazel, nor gray, nor any of the other shades Mikey had seen in the faces of her family servants and the attendants at the boutiques to which her mother took her, and the congregation at her local parish. Her irises were, instead, bright red, so much so that they bordered on the visceral. These lovely irises were even redder than the blood which had seeped from Mikey's sliced cheek, which had now congealed and seemed full of violence. The girl was a perfect stranger to Mikey, and but her eyes told more than pleasant chit-chat ever could. She was not normal. Mikey knew instinctively, as she gazed upon her, that she should keep her distance, if she could. But this only made her, conversely, feel even more enchanted. She could not look away from her. It was as though her captor had placed her under a spell. That woman! Penny shifted back, her skirts shifting against the ground. She's the one I told you about, Mikey. The one from the woods. She's the one who fought off those bandits. I thought it was unbelievable, what I saw. But now I know it wasn't a dream. She really is real. She killed all those men. She's a monster. A monster? Mikey murmured this under her breath, her expression one of perplexity. Had Henny delivered this in... Had Henny delivered this indictment against any other, Mikey would have thought her guilty of exaggeration. But she could believe such a claim easily enough when leveled at this woman. The woman did not look as monsters did in fairy tales, with slobbering maws and sharpened claws, and her red eyes make Mikey's blood run cold regardless. She was no ordinary woman, but perhaps that was to be expected. Nothing about the night's events had been ordinary. Oh, a monster, am I? The woman's unnatural eyes narrowed, and, with a smile, said, "You cut me to the quick, you humans do. At least, you would, were I not so accustomed to it. Perhaps I bring it upon myself, given the unusual manner in which I treat my guests. But you could at least try to be polite. Why, if it were not for me, the both of you would be lying in the woods right now, mangled beyond all recognition." "So you really were the one who saved us. I thought as much. Yours isn't a face anybody could forget in a hurry." "Why, thank you. I will take that as a compliment. I am very striking, I know." "Why did you save us, though? And how? I can't believe you brought us back here. Wherever here is, on your own. You must have had help." "Oh, if only, but alas, I've not had any help for, well, let's see. It must have been a century at least." "A century?" Penny gawked at the woman, her eyes agog. Agog is such a good word. It makes me giggle. "But that would make you older than my grandmother. That can't be right. You don't look a day over 18. "Oh, do you really think so? You're too kind." Laughing softly, the woman extracted. Jesus Christ. I don't know why that fucked me up. Extracted a key from her pocket. Then it started. Okay, actually, real quick, guys. There's gonna be a very quick ad break. I am going to flip over and stretch my legs, and hopefully, we will get to like a pause here soon. But I need to walk around my apartment a little bit. One moment while the ads run, my besties. And we're back. Hello. Thank you for the raid, Tufty. I appreciate it. How are you all doing? Welcome in. Welcome in, Tufty and Stygian. Much appreciate you guys being here. For those who are not aware of who I am, who came in from the raid, my name is Tyria. I am your local shapeshifting goddess. And I am on a divine quest for virtual adoration in order to regain my power, which is totally not for nefarious reasons, I assure you. Oh my god, my dog just almost face planted off a chair. Oh my god. Anyway, hello. We are currently fundraising for Dysautonomia International. This is a campaign that I have going for the rest of the month, as it is Dysautonomia Awareness Month. I'm gonna flip to just chatting while I explain this. We're good. I fell asleep at the keyboard, so I'm transferring chat to you before I embarrass myself by face planting. Oh my god, Tough, get some sleep, my guy. Get some sleep, but thank you. I appreciate it. I will, I assure you your community is in fantastic paws and mitts and whatever else I decide to have at the time with me. Anyway, explaining our fundraiser. October is Dysautonomia Awareness Month. I have dysautonomia, which is a dysfunction of the nerves, which kind of fucks up your ability to do any of the regular processing things, the automatic functions, such as heart rate, blood pressure, and sweating, amongst other things that I will not get into. But it affects a lot of stuff. It is a dysfunction of the nerves. My specific brand of dysautonomia is called POTS, which is postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, which is a very fancy way of saying when I stand up, my heart gets very angry and I can and will pass out. So, if you are interested in donating, we are currently fundraising for Dysautonomia International, which is our leading organization in researching for dysautonomia, as well as educating both the public and practitioners and doctors and whatnot, because unfortunately dysautonomia is not, people don't really pay attention to it all that much, which is really unfortunate because it's actually an extremely common chronic illness to have. If you are interested in donating, there is our Tiltify link. I made it myself. Please go examine it, look at it, tell it it's pretty. You are welcome. Any streamers in the chat who feel they would like to participate in this event, you are welcome to message me and I will give you this handy dandy overlay that I've got going on, which gives you the QR code as well as the donation goal. If you feel like participating in this as well. I will have the event going all month, even though I most likely will not be streaming for most of it. But I do appreciate you all being here. With that said, we are currently playing through the demo of Cage of Roses, which is made by, I believe the company is Ebihime is how it would be pronounced, and it is being published by 2.5 Studios. 2.5 Studios is also made the game we are currently playing through on my channel as well, which is A Date with Death, in which you get to Riz the Grim Reaper. This one is gay vampires, and that's all anyone needs to know. Lesbian vampires specifically. So I'm currently just trying to get to a save point. And by save point, I mean, like, just a break that feels well enough that I can save the game. But yeah, anyway, you all get to witness my delightful voice acting, by which I mean it's very bad. And, we shall now carry on. Anything that the new people have missed about this game is that our, one of our protagonists here, this girl with the red hair, is Mikey. She is a noble lady. Standing beside her is her maid, Henny. And then this is the vampire whose name we have not has not been revealed to us yet. Mikey's parents were killed in an ambush by bandits, and the vampire appear to have saved us. I'm really good at words. Anyway. I'm sorry that was such a long preamble, but I am glad you guys stuck through it with me. And we shall now carry on. Laughing softly, the woman extracted, I again fucked up the word because I know English, a key from her pocket, then inserted it into the awaiting keyhole. Deftly, she turned it, and deftly she stepped inside the cell, the hem of her dark cape dragging against the uneven stone floor. Once inside the cell, she turned to pull the door open, and locked it anew. There. That ought to do it. There. I already forgot what voice I gave her. Oh god. There. That ought to do it. It would be horribly tedious if you tried to run from me. I would be able to catch you, of course, but I'd rather not bother with all of the fuss. It's such a hassle. With the door thusly secured, she placed the key inside her pocket and turned to look at her prisoners. For that, Mikey knew, with a sinking feeling, was what she was. Mikey had been aware of her status upon waking in her dank prison cell, but the presence of the woman, and how very aloof she was, made this abundantly clear. She had not been brought back to this woman's abode as an equal. She was at the woman's mercy, Fauness or no, and Mikey feared her family's prestigious title would have little sway here. The woman did not seem like one who cared for such things. Did not seem like one who cared much for anything, really, or even about anything. Her lips might have curved into a coy smile, like one who had been dealt a particularly good hand in a card game, but her red eyes were hard and horribly empty. Mikey could tell on an instinctual level that this woman was not one to be trifled with. Why, she might not have been a woman at all. Now, why are you looking at me like that? The woman, catching Mikey's cowed expression, pouted. You're making me feel quite unwelcome. I thought you would be relieved to see my face, after being left to languish in the catacombs of my castle for hours on end, but maybe I was hoping for too much. In any case, you shouldn't frown like that, dear. It's an awful waste. You'll wrinkle your pretty face. This chastisement was familiar to Mikey. She had heard it many times from her mother. While Mikey had been trained to obey her mother without question, however, it was not so with this strange woman. Some of her reticence fell away, and, needled, Mikey said, What I do with my face is my own concern. I'm sure it's none of your business. My. The mysterious woman tittered. You're feistier than you look. I took you for a shrinking violet, but maybe I was mistaken. You might make for quite the amusing plaything, though you'd be a good sight prettier if you smiled. I can't say I blame you for being so surly, though. I never liked smiling on command either, though it's been many, many years since anybody last tried to give me orders. It's fortunate nobody can tell me what to do now, at least. It came at quite the price, but... Oh well, never mind. Where are my manners? My name is Magdalena, but you may call me Lena. My family's name, meanwhile, is of no particular importance. They might have commanded some respect back in the day, but it is not so now. They have long since been obliterated. I doubt history will remember them. It would not wish to. I am all that is left of their legacy, a fact I would very much love to rub in their faces, but alas, I never got the chance. It is very nice to meet you, for the second time this night. I like the little bounces to signify movement. I just think it's funny. So saying, Magdalena dropped a neat curtsy, taking hold of her cape in lieu of a skirt. But I am afraid I will not be afforded much of a chance to properly know you. And while I would relish the chance to speak to a couple of young maidens such as yourselves, I have designs for you beyond idle chatter. And what do you mean by that exactly? Only that now I have brought you here, I cannot continue to let you live. You have already seen too much. What? Henny stared at Magdalena with wide eyes, so full of fear they are swelled with it. What do you mean? What I said. Do try to keep up. It's awfully tedious having to explain myself down to the finer details. But I suppose you have the right to know the bare minimum, prisoners though you may be. I would hate to keep you in suspense, and at this point it matters not how much you know. You will not be able to tell anybody else what you might learn here. You'll not be venturing forth beyond the walls of my castle ever again. Magdalena smiled. Wait a sec, is this some kind of vampire romance? I literally said that it is lesbian vampires. Were you not listening to my spiel, Tufty? But yes, it is. It's vampire romance. Hell yeah. Lesbian vampires. Woohoo! Let's go, lesbians! I am not a clever rat, clearly. Although you did say you were falling asleep, so... yeah. Magdalena smiled, her lips lifting in a wicked grin, not so very unlike that of the Joker in Henny's pack of cards. Yippee! Though Magdalena's face was white, her lips were red, much like her eyes. They stood out in her milky face, like a rose blooming despite the winter's chill. Or else, Mikey thought with a shudder, freshly spilt blood. You must understand I am not a normal woman. No human can hope to best me when it comes to a competition of sheer strength, as the bandits who were pursuing you soon discovered. It did not take me more than a few seconds to dispatch them. The fight they put up was so pathetic, it makes me wonder why they even bothered. If they'd any respect for my time, they would have slit their own throats with their daggers and saved me the trouble. You humans can be awfully thoughtless. But if they had done that, I wouldn't have been able to bring the leader of their little group back to my castle. He was in a bad way, and I was obliged to introduce myself to him before bestowing upon you similar honors. I really must apologize for making you wait. Magdalena dropped another curtsy, as an elegant lady might, but it smacked of insincerity. There was no respect in Magdalena's red irises for her pair of prisoners. Rather than sympathize with their plight, she, instead, seemed little more than amused. How many men and women had Magdalena brought to her castle, and how many had she summarily tortured? I don't know English. Hi, sleepy puppy. The dog is on his streamer chair beside me, taking a little napsy. Mikey knew of at least one, besides herself and Henny. The bandit's leader. Did you kill him? Eventually, yes. It was quite the sight. You ought to have seen the way he begged and pleaded and groveled at my feet. A grown man like that, who was practically made of muscle. Oh, how fickle fortune is. Just 1 hour hence, he was the predator, stalking his prey through the woods, alongside his lackeys, and the next. Magdalena drew a hand across her neck in the unequivocal universal gesture of a slit throat. Well, what goes around comes around. He got what he deserved, and his screams really were exquisite. Did you, perchance, happen to hear them? He was being rather loud. Henny gave a violent start at this, but said nothing sensible. Her mouth fell open, but only syllables came out, all broken up and interspaced. What? Oh goodness! Surprised, are you? You shouldn't be. That man was a bandit, a vulture in a man's flesh, who profited on misery. If it weren't for me, you would have gone the same way as the poor unfortunates in that stalled carriage. The driver and the horses, too. Nobody was spared their ravages, man nor beast. They made quite the grisly mess. Were I a century younger, it would have been enough to turn even my stomach. Maybe that is so, but to gloat over another death like that... It doesn't seem right. You are twisted. If I am twisted, that is only because this world... Magdalena began, but then paused. A momentary furrow captured her white, smooth brow, but soon it straightened out, as though nothing of note had occurred. Well, never mind that. I do not wish to spout cliches about good and evil. I would begin to bore myself. The fact of the matter is that man got what he deserved, as did his compatriots. I took great pains to ensure that. I paid that brigand. I don't know English, so I'ma skip it. Back twofold for what he did to you. Did you know that he tried to be stoic in the beginning? Humans often are. Human males, in particular. They've so much pride. It's funny, really, that a cur like that would care so much about appearances. He was less a man than he was a dog, but he still had pretensions of greatness or of grandeur. The red hair. The redhead is our main girl, the noble, who is Mikey. The one with the black hair is her maid, Henny. And then, obviously, the one on the right is the vampire. The one who is look of a vampire is the vampire. I soon stripped him of these lofty delusions, however. Humans are very alike in one regard, at least. You all scream the same after your bones have been broken, and you all bleed red. Brigand, I don't know how to say it. That man was a word that I don't know. I'll admit, who deserved the hangman's noose, but that's for a court of law to decide, not you. Tufty, oh, sorry, Mochi, I didn't mean to scare you. It's not good to say that Henny is back. Tufty! Tufty, chill! You're funny. What you did isn't justice, it's barbaric. You shouldn't be taking pleasure in other people's deaths. What gave you the right to kill him anyway? I had every right to kill him. He was trespassing upon my land, as were you and the young lady here. His life was already forfeit the moment he encroached upon my territory. The Lord's Prayer may say that we ought to forgive those who wrong us, but I've no patience with such teachings. They do not apply to me. The Lord has forsaken me. I am no longer a member of his congregation. He would have no love for me as I am now, and I have little love for him. I cannot conceive how he could have let me suffer so if he truly existed. Sometimes I do wonder. So you mean to add blasphemy to your list of crimes? Oh, I've done far, far worse than that in my time. The morals of you good sententious? There's a lot of big words in this game that Elmo doesn't know. Churchgoers do not apply to me. I am not of your kind. I am a drinker of blood who walks the night. I have been alive for over a century, though my life is very different to yours and your mistress's. I doubt that you could understand me, and neither do I want you to. I've no desire to understand you either. There would be no point. We are much too different. A drinker of blood? But that would make you... a vampire? Mother really wanted to emulate... Yeah, it's 19th century. Yeah, it's set in 19th century, so there's just a lot of words that I don't know. I probably should. It was Mikey who offered forth this label, after Henny's voice faltered. Mikey was an ardent devourer of books, but she had read before of such shadowy denizens of the night, much to her mother's chagrin. You know what? I'ma just commit to butchering words. I'm a full-on commit to the butchering of words. Lady Von Essen had thought that Mikey, as a well-bred young woman, they spelled that wrong, ought not to read at all. It will only excite your mind, dear, but should instead busy herself with embroidery. This game should come with a dictionary, or perhaps a thesaurus. I can't even say thesaurus, and that's a word I know. Yeah, it should come with, like, in parentheses, just a little pronunciation guide of how to say it. Mikey, however, had always preferred books to busy work, particularly work which involved needles, and she found herself returning to stories time and time again. Hi, buddy. Whenever she needed a break from her own dreary life. Mikey had read all manner of books over the years, but she preferred adventure stories full of mystery, intrigue, and yes, even murder! Sorry, I just wanted to say it like that. Mikey knew from her reading that vampires were nocturnal creatures, often aristocratic, who shunned the sunlight, dwelt in ruinous castles, and souped upon the lifeblood of fair maidens. Specifically maidens. Yes, Mikey thought in an oddly detached manner, that did make sense. She had sensed there was something strange about Magdalena when first their eyes had met. Mikey's blue, Magdalena's shocking scarlet. Magdalena must have been a vampire. It all made sense. At least it would have, had Mikey been a heroine in one of her novels. But life, Mikey reminded herself, was not akin to a story. Mikey might have consumed books like a starving man, but she had sense enough to know that the words written within the pages of adventure stories were all skeins of fiction. Vampires ought to have remained within the realms of make-believe. They had no business walking about as humans did, made of cold, unfeeling flesh with hearts which no longer beat. They were supposed to be constructs, merely figments of fancy. But Magdalena was real, undoubtedly so. Unless, Mikey thought, striking her head had addled her, and, unsettling though she was, Mikey did not take her for a liar. Her confession had sounded quite sincere. Hi, Bubba, it's okay. It's okay. I know there are puppies barking outside, but you don't gotta bark at them, Bubba Bear. Yeah, good boy. Good boy. Bubba, you're good. Oh, you're such a sleepy little boy. You're so cute. Yes, that is correct. I am a vampire, and this castle is my territory. That and the woods that surround you. You wandered into my domain, you helpless little lambs, while on the run from those awful bandits. I know none of this is your fault, and I have no quibbles with you. I am not blaming you for what occurred tonight. There. See how fair I am? I'm too nice by half. Too nice for my own good. Because you've been awfully surly with me, the both of you, and I've only ever been polite. I would even let you go if I could, dispatching of brigands. I still don't know how to say the word. I should probably look it up, but I don't want to. It's one thing, but I take no pleasure in harming young ladies. But I fear that would be foolhardy. I cannot allow any who have wandered into my realm to leave alive. I do not want you telling tall tales. I should snap both of your necks and be done with it, but... Magdalena's red eyes found Mikey's, then held them. Her smile, which hitherto had seemed so easy, faded, and once more her brow furrowed. You don't seem to be a mere peasant. Magdalena delivered this judgment softly, but something dark seemed to throb beneath her words. Something sinister. I can tell from your clothes, dirty though they are, that you are from a wealthy background. Your voice and your bearing, yes, even the way you look at me, it all suggests that you are, in fact, a lady. Would I be correct in that assessment? Why do you ask? It would be problematic for me if I were to dispatch a woman of renown. I would not want your disappearance to catch the attention of men in high places. If they were to send out a search party into these woods, it is not wholly impossible that they would stumble upon my home. I have lived out of sight from the public eye for nigh on a century, and I've no desire to invite half of Augsburg's big word into my home. Word I know, but I have never ever had to say out loud, so I don't know how to pronounce it. That's what I'm learning about this game currently, is that these are words that I know, but I have never once spoken them out loud, so I don't actually know how to pronounce them. The idea is incredibly unpleasant. Magdalena pulled a face, as a small child might when confronted with a plate of food they did not much care for. If you really are a lady, I might do well to exercise some caution. I suppose I can always spare your life and kill only this dowdy common girl. Your maid, I take it. Magdalena looked to Henny, Now, her lips curled into a mean smile. What do you say to that? It's not a bad trade, is it? Her life for yours. Precious few people who find themselves in my abode are ever able to live to tell the tale. You would be one in... Goodness, how many guests have I had over the years? There must be a good 200 or 300. Aren't you touched by my thoughtfulness? Silence descended in the decrepit cell following Magdalena's announcement. Stuck for words, Mikey could only stare at her. Her lips parted. I wanna catch the phantom in my own chat. Do 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 do. Hee hee. What was she to say to Magdalena's proposal? How was she to feel? There was relief, certainly, at the prospect of escaping the cell, but Mikey could take no real pleasure in it, not when it would come at the cost of Henny's life. How could she abandon her friend, who had been by her side since her early childhood? Were it not for Henny, Mikey knew she would be dead already, butchered like a farmyard animal in her parents' carriage. Henny had rescued her once already, from the bandit's blade. It seemed unconscionable that she should leave her now. Mikey turned this over in her mind, worrying her teeth with her lower lip, when... Oh, Henny. Well, if my life's all you're after... Henny reached out, taking Mikey's hands between her own, then said, What else is there to think about? It sounds like a fine suggestion to me. Don't you agree, Mikey? What? Mikey stared into Henny's round, soft face, her eyes vast and uncomprehending. Surely you don't mean that. You're not all right with this, are you, Henny? Well, it'd be a lie if I said I was jumping up and down for joy at the prospect of being eaten by a vampire. I don't know why I gave her such a sassy voice for that. Henny's smile wavered, though she tried to maintain a brave face. But if it's what I've got to do to save your life, Mikey, then I'll do it. I do love you, after all. I'm not going to let you get hurt. Henny tried to sound brave, but Mikey could hear how her voice trembled all the same. Feel, too, how Henny's hands shook. Henny, like her, had heard the screams of the bandits' leader as they echoed through the halls. Though neither woman had seen his final moments, they knew from his cries that his demise must have been barbarous? Okay, big word for Elmo. Mikey could not allow Henny to endure such suffering for her sake. She could not allow her to die. Mikey knew Henny wished only the best for her, but... I like sassy Henny. Henny is delightful. Earlier in the game, when she's explaining to Mikey what happened with her parents being slaughtered and killed, she told Mikey that her dad is dead as a doornail. And I was like, girl, you got no tact. Like, it's so funny. And then yeah, because Mikey was saying, like, oh, he's dead. And Henny responded, dead as a doornail. And then, like, 2 minutes later was complaining about how could they possibly be in a cell like this? It's a Christmas Carol reference. How could they possibly be in a cell like this? They should be given much better accommodations. I don't know. It was a whole thing. It was pretty funny. No. Mikey spoke up, her voice surprisingly cool given the wild fluctuations of her heart within her breast. Ew, I hate how they said that. Why? Why was it heart within her breast? What? I hate it. Ew. Sorry. I won't allow that to happen. It wouldn't be right. If one of us must remain here, then it ought to be me. What? No, you can't mean that, Mikey. Surely you jest. No, I'm not. You know I'm of a terrible sense of humor, Henny. I hardly ever tell jokes. I don't have enough levity in me for them. I'm being very serious. You've always looked out for me, ever since I was small. Not that I always listen to you. Don't you remember when I stole the keys to the mausoleum in my insufferable curiosity and crept inside? But of course I remember. You dragged me in after you, despite my warnings. And it went about as badly as expected, too. Didn't it just? Faintly, Mikey smiled, dire though their situation was, happy to share this memory, though it wasn't at all fond with Henny. For all she knew, it might very well have been her last chance to reminisce with her maid like this. Mikey knew not what the future held, but Lady Von Essen was in such an awful mood when she found out. It was quite frightening. I'd never seen anything like it. Oh yes, she was fearfully cross. It's a wonder fire didn't come out of her nostrils. I recall that she struck you, and then when I tried to argue on your behalf, she struck me too. She struck me so hard my ears still ring from it sometimes. God, yes, poor Hen. I felt awful about it at the time, really I did. I didn't care about my punishment, God knows I deserved it, but you'd done nothing wrong. You'd been perfectly reasonable about the whole thing. If I'd listened to you, we could have avoided the furor. Another word that I do not know. Altogether, but I was too reckless. I ignored your wishes, and you still tried to protect me. You jumped to my defense, just like a knight, and you were slapped silly for your troubles. It was horribly unfair. I've dragged you into all sorts of messes before, Henny, but you've always come to my defense. You've been a wonderful friend to me throughout the years, but I can't keep relying upon you. I don't want to take advantage of your kindness. But Mikey, I like it when you rely on me. Please, feel free to take advantage. That's what I'm here for. No, I can't. It isn't right. It's long past time that I repaid you. By offering yourself up as a sacrifice in my stead? That isn't what I want. Mikey, please. And he stared at her mistress, her expression entreating. Good God. Guys, I grew up in the middle of nowhere. I don't know big words. I love you, but you're acting like a crazy woman. You are the pinnacle of rationality, are you, considering this crazy deal? That is truly insane. Don't tell me you've accepted all this. Of course I've not accepted it. I'm terrified, really. See how my poor hands are shaking? But one of us fighting it has to be better than both of us. If I can protect you, then I must. I will. That's my job. No, it isn't. Not any longer. I'm absolving you of your duty, Henny. This farce has lasted long enough. What farce? You know what I mean. Magdalena. Yes. Magdalena looked between the two women, a coy smile playing about her lips. Have you quite finished with your little quarrel? I must confess, I was beginning to feel rather left out. My apologies. I will endeavor not to be so rude in the future to my hostess. Mikey dipped her head in a gesture of esteem, one not so very dissimilar to the way Henny was bidden to bob around her mother. Mikey knew she could not afford to anger Magdalena. If Mikey was to save Henny, she would be obligated to beg and bow, or obliged to beg and bow and scrape. Fortunately, begging and bowing were not beyond Mikey's means, even though she was a lady. She was no stranger to scraping either. Scraping, whatever. Having tearfully entreated her parents to reconsider her marriage prospects. She had failed on that score, but she did not intend to fail now. She knew what she must say. It seemed a stretch that Magdalena would believe her, but if she did... I fear you are laboring under a misapprehension, Lady Magdalena. Your reasoning is sound. There would, indeed, be a ruckus if a noble woman was to go missing, but your application is not. I am not a lady, you see, but my companion is. Oh? Magdalena raised an eyebrow. Then you mean to say you are the maid, and this lumpen Henny here is the mistress. That is correct, yes. I know I am dressed as a lady, albeit a disgraced one, but that was part of Lord and Lady Von Essen's ruse. While traveling, they often have me dressed as a lady, while Henny, that is to say, Henrique, sure, dresses as a maid. It is a means of subterfuge, so that if our carriage was to be attacked by bandits, I am the one who would be in harm's way rather than my mistress. Only a truly desperate bandit would rummage through the pockets of a maid, especially when she is with her lady. What? Mikey, that's... Henny begam? Sure. But Mikey cut her off. She was warming to her ruse, despite the chill which infused the air, and she found she could not still her tongue, not until she had delivered her whole address. Lady Henrique, sure, is the one who will be missed in Augsbury, not I. She has a fiancé waiting for her, you know, and he is a very important man. If she doesn't arrive before the dawning of the next day, he will be certain to send out a search party for her. You would not want that, would you? Magdalena pondered Mikey's tale for a few moments, one gloved hand resting upon her hip. As she thought, Mikey stared at her, compelling her through sheer force of will to accept her tale at face value. It was patently unbelievable, of this Mikey knew, but she need not convince a whole jury, she need only to convince Magdalena. An age seemed to pass, during which nobody spoke, until... Oh, very well. If that is how it is, then I suppose I have no choice. You may leave my abode, Lady Henry, again, I don't know. Here, Magdalena dropped another effusive, sure, curtsy. I don't know words. If that is indeed your real name, I will grant you the chance to reunite with your fiancé in Augsbury, who must be awaiting you with no shortage of anticipation. Who wouldn't, after all, wish to dote upon a maiden as fair and fine as yourself? Your surprisingly well-spoken maid, however, will be bidden to remain by my side. Do we have a deal? Yes, I would do anything to ensure Lady Henrique's safety. Henrique. That's not how it sounded, but I thought it was funny. Oh, most assuredly. I would not consent to acting as a decoy on her behalf if you didn't care. You would not consent to acting as a decoy on her behalf if you didn't care. What a wonderful friendship you women have. It is quite special, really. Particularly given the disparity in your social statuses. Now come along, Lady Henrique? It was very lovely to make your acquaintance, but now I fear I must cut our meeting short. Let me escort you to the front door. It's the least I can do for a woman of your lofty status. What? Mikey, no! Henny cried, but in vain. Magdalena was soon upon her, her pale fingers winding tight about her wrist. Mikey, please stop this! Tell her the truth! I'm sorry, Hen, but...
A weasel! I want to catch this one too!
Hee hee. Abashed, Mikey dropped her gaze to the stone floor. Though she had given her life for Henny's sake, she found she could not meet her friend's gaze as she was dragged bodily from the prison cell they had both inhabited. The hurt in Henny's countenance and the betrayal stung far too much. This is how it has to be. Says who? I was willing to go along with this woman's plan, but you scuppered it up? That's a big word for it. I don't understand you at all, Mikey. Why would you tell such a tissue of lies for little old me? Magdalena, please! Henny stared at Magdalena, all while trying and failing to dig her heels into the stone floor of her cell. Surely you can't believe my mistress. It's obvious she's lying. There's no way she isn't a lady. Not with her fancy, proper way of talking.
Hey, I got the weasel.
She's far, far more genteel than I could ever dream of being. Her manners are certainly more polished than your own, yes, but perhaps this comes from years of servitude. You could stand to learn a thing or two from your maid, Lady Henrique. Henrique! I knew I was gonna fuck it up because I was saying Henrique in my head. Henrique. You know what? Fuck it. She's Henrique now. Because I just think it's funny. Also, that might be the correct way of saying it. I don't know. Your fiancé... Why is my Tiltify not popping up as much as it's supposed to? Your fiancé won't think much of you as you are now, I'm afraid. Why, you're speaking almost like a fishwife. Now, come along, let us not argue. You will give me a headache. But Mikey, I can't leave her! Let me go! Henny cried anew, squirming now, but Magdalena's hold upon her did not loosen. If anything, in fact, it seemed to grow stronger, to such a degree that Henny screamed. Ow! Very convincing me, thank you. Henny's cries echoed throughout the cell, more unbearable than those of the bandit leader during his final moments. Magdalena had not made Henny bleed, at least, but she was gripping her wrist so tightly Mikey feared she might snap it. Magdalena had strength enough, or so Mikey had been led to believe, to best even a fully grown man. Henny, who was short and dumpy, could put up little in the way of a fight. The poor maid was quite helpless before her. There was nothing which could be done, not any longer. Henny would have to leave, while Mikey would remain incarcerated in this dreary cell alone. This was what Mikey had wanted when she had spun her, frankly untenable story. So why then did she feel so guilty? Let go of me! Let go, I say! Mikey, please! Penny continued to protest, but Magdalena remained insensible to her cries. The door of the cell was closed anew with a metallic thud. And then Mikey was left, sitting upon the ground, as she had been 1 hour hence when she had woken, pale-faced and trembling and all alone. The time passed at an agonizingly slow pace as Mikey sat on the stone floor of her cell. You know what? Actually, changed my mind. I know I started to say it. I know, I started. But I am going to consider that a fair, stopping point. Because I don't know how long this is. And every time I think it's gonna flip over, it does not. So, we are going to just call it here for now. Kitty! Thank you guys for hanging out with me. I super duper appreciate it. Y'all are very cool. I am going to so I'm going to be live again this week. It seems possibly Thursday. And I'm gonna be live with friends. I don't know how many yet, but a few friends. And that will be more of like the dysautonomia, like kind of educational stream. Go over a lot more of just like what it is, the various things that people have stated they want they want the general public to know. Hi, Jig. Oh, you've been lurking this whole time. Hello. We are going to, my lovely babies, we are going to go raid my dear friend, Neil Butin, aka Bill Newton, because he's fantastic. He has been a very good friend of mine for a little over 6 years. He is a voice actor. Thank you, Jake. He is a voice actor. He is currently playing Satisfactory. And, anyway, he's super duper cool. You all be nice to him, or I'ma bite you. And, I hope to see you guys later this week. Thank you again for hanging out. I appreciate you. Bye-bye, y'all.
Being rated. I'm being rated by Tyria. Thank you for the raid, Tyria. Hi there, Jig Rabble. That makes a lot of sense. I didn't. That's on me. I started streaming and you'll like Tyria. I was like, my good friend Tyria. Is always here. And you weren't. And it turns out it was